We're now done with the presentations. If there are any questions, they're welcome. The three panelists could help me with the discussion. Your Eminence. We have the pleasure during these 2 days of understanding and of realizing that the Church, through the use of new technologies, can really develop its pastoral care and give opportunities and possibilities to its people, to the members of its flock. However, and after thanking all participants, organizers, and the Holy Megisti Monastery of Vatopedi, which has really helped us in organizing, I must express an issue, and I shall address you, Father George. I know that you use Facebook, email, and other modes of communication. So my question is the following. Those priests who use these media, are they really experienced enough? Are they really knowledgeable enough about these media in order to use them safely and effectively? Is there a risk of deviations there? Should the Church establish those prerequisites in order to give the possibility for such communications to only those who are in a position to use the media well? Or could anybody can anybody create a web page which is under no scrutiny, under no control? And I don't mean control in the sense of repression, but control in the sense of an equilibrium, of a balance, of a given objective that needs to be attained. Because what we want is to help our flock. So if I set up a web page, but without really having sufficient knowledge, and without being able to save myself, how can I then help others save themselves? There are potential risks. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe these risks are non-existent. So I would like you to tell me, if you can, whether these risks are real or not, and if they are, how can we avoid them? And if they don't exist, then of course my question is a non-lieu. Eminence, I said at the outset of my presentation that all these types of communications need to act as an antechamber leading to the Church. But it is necessary in our era. So yes, the question naturally arises how to better use these media, how to use them for the benefit of the people and not in the name of our own vanity, how not to turn ourselves towards ourselves and exclude those who are outside. So yes, you did raise a very pertinent question. Are the people using this media the right ones? Do they have the right knowledge? I shall answer you by raising another question. The Church entrusts the confession and the celebration of sacraments to priests without knowing if they are in a position to do it well. If the Church entrusts us with the confession, with the celebration of sacraments, then it would be rather a contradiction in terms to tell us that we can speak to the people on the phone. And also, I must say that there is a deficit of persons inside the Church. A bishop who knows his children, his own priests, and the bishop should be in a position to say, look, Father George, I think that you are exaggerating here. Do this or do the other. But if there is no real rapport between the bishop and his priests, then of course phobic syndromes are bound to develop, and then of course policing measures will be necessary. That is, control of things that have gone astray. And if you want my opinion, I have experience of such cases. Often when I enter church sites, often I am very disappointed. I see that there is a lot of gossip. His Eminence Schinas told us about it. There are announcements that are not real announcements, self-projections, I would call them more likely. They sometimes are too eager to call the cameras in. These are deviations, and yes, some order is required there, irrespective of who deviates. But apart from this, and or aside of this, we also need the Church to communicate with those who are out there, and there is a deficit. But this is, I think, the subject of another panel. I don't know if I've answered your question. A question to Father Anthimos. Again, I am the coordinator. I teach in a professional orientation high school. And we are in touch with the parents and students alike, trying to teach them to use the internet properly or appropriately. I see that you are an expert in this. You have a web page. What is the content of this web page, and what is your objective? Oh, yes, okay, but I'm the coordinator. I'm not one of the panelists, really. I think it would be preferable for one of the panelists to answer this question. Anyway, only a couple of words. In the old years, when the internet was not there yet, when somebody came to confession and left in big cities, we always gave them something to take away with them. Usually gave them a book. It was something for him to keep up the good job, because it would be another 3, 4, 5 months before we would see him again. And we were agonizing. We were really wanted to accompany the person. When the internet appeared, we were very relieved. We thought it a blessing, because we could communicate with people that we would not physically see for 3, 4, 5 months. And in fact, the internet incorporated the beauty that we wanted to hand over to the person and have it accompany him while he would not be with us. You see, this is the anxiety for the shepherd who will not who receives a lamb which is wounded and complaining and needs to do something for it. Sorry for taking the floor repeatedly, but all of this is very beautiful, and I think we need to share more. It is true that self-projection, self-promotion is a temptation, always. But as Father Nektarios said, there is a lot of personal work apart from our everyday duties. We work on the internet, we prepare things, and not only Father Nektarios, many others like him. However, there are rewards. Sometimes we make mistakes, they're very frustrating, we leave a coma out or spirit of a reward. But you see, it is also rewarding, because when I don't do anything, when I am resting, I have the feeling that a young person out there is looking for something, is looking for a hand. And it's good that they can now find us. Yesterday, a friendly couple told me, thank you for letting us know about the conference. Said, what, was it my page that informed you about the conference? Everybody knows about this conference. And they told me, look, we are working all day long. We don't have time to look at the, to watch TV and the news. It was thanks to your page, thanks to the information on your page that we found out about this conference. So it is good. This, of course, is my personal opinion. But let me say that if we are not in a position to do it well, then let's stop it altogether. I think, however, that this is not the right attitude to have. I think that those who do this, who communicate via the internet, need also to be responsible and accountable for their deeds. His Eminence of Glyfada.
Γεννάται το εξής ερώτημα. Ένας επίσκοπος έχει μία Μητρόπολη που έχει 250 ιερείς. Το ίδιο δεν συμβαίνει και με την εξομολογία.
If somebody cannot work on the internet well, then he will not be able to do a confession well. Who can control all of this? Confession is a holy sacrament, and the modern media, but who can keep an eye on all of that? Can the bishop monitor all the sites set up by individual priests? Of course, a very good tool, but is it in the right hands? Because I knew priests who had sites and they were really horrible. On the other hand, there are bishops that do not allow their priests to have a Facebook page or email or to use the internet at all. This is a real question. Thank you. Forgive me, I shall insist that the rapport between a bishop and his priests is like the rapport between an abbot, the head of a monastery, and his monks. I think the bishop has the possibility to know his priests. The comment is off mic. Comment off the microphone. Can't be translated. So yes, but how can the bishop know all these details? True, it is difficult to know the details. I have known priests from my metropolis and others, and I know that there is a lot that goes wrong on the Facebook and on the internet. I'm not against in an unqualified manner. Yes, of course, I think that if you are in favor, nothing will remain hidden because God will reveal it. Father Haralambos from Albania. Yesterday, having heard Nektarios, His Eminence from Hong Kong, started me thinking on this, and I see now that I hear that this is repeated today by His Eminence here. Maybe there is an ecclesiological and maybe, why not, a soteriological problem that cannot be controlled, and I'm referring, of course, to the internet. The structure of the church on the administrative level is between two, shepherd and members of the flock, which has a space and a time dimension, two dimensions that do not exist on the internet, and that may cause serious problems. And I will give you an example that I heard yesterday. His Eminence yesterday, Nektarios, said that someone could send a message that was like giving meat to someone whom the other was still feeding with milk. So someone who interferes with the flock of someone else could destroy instead of helping. And the question arising for restrictions to be set on the internet, not to the laity, but to the clergy, to the members of the clergy, to what extent, who can they address through the internet? Should there be restrictions as to that in order not to have interferences between different practices? Father Haralambos, yes, of course, each one of us belongs to a parish, but we work for the whole world, υπερσύμπαντος κόσμου, we say, for the whole world, in the same way. Because of this, we really can't worry about where the information we send out goes. We cannot check this. We're saying this now, and it is being broadcast by the Pemptusia channel, so everybody can view what is going on here right now. This is not something that can be controlled, but of course, the lay who walks out of confession can say something to someone else who is about to confess and say the wrong thing and help him or destroy him. only half a minute. If there is a subject of electronic overspilling, sometimes there are messages that are very small, very very nice, very important. There are articles that may be very attractive, and I have made it a rule, personal rule for myself, never to enter a site which has so much material. So this could be a rule, this could be a criterion. We give instructions for no one. We may send something very discreet. We may send out something very nice, very useful, and maybe nobody will visit it simply because it's not glitzy. They do not visit what is simple. Their eye is attracted by what is colorful, by what is abundant. Well, maybe you should not be interested in the numbers. Maybe you should just allow the message to be there without caring how many follow. 200,000, why should that be?
Delasoudas Lavrendios, emeritus professor in the Athens University. My comment has the form of a question because the moderator said before that what I raised was not a question. Yeah, that was not a question, it was a remark. Of course, I know what the question is, and thank you very much for this suggestion. So now I'm going to express my comment in the form of a question. Dear fathers, the Father Abbot before has spoken of the efforts of Jehovah's Witnesses. How can the shepherd protect his flock against such interventions? Because, of course, the internet will also be in their hands. And one other remark, which I'm going to express in the form of a question. Perhaps we could speak of a spiritual, soup kitchen? That is, that the church functions and has a soup kitchen for, the church does have soup kitchens for bodily food. Could we also have a soup kitchen for the food of the soul, which is not given by the shepherd to the flock, but the flock is asking for it, which would be food for the soul instead of food of thought, as the actual soup kitchens. Thank you very much. One last question. It's already very late. Thank you, Protopresbyter Seraphim Dimitriou, working for the official website of the Church of Greece, ecclesia.gr. So from my work there, I have the following experience. People come and ask, but they are not ready to go to their parish. So this is the risk. When I give a reply to anyone who comes and raises a question, I cannot tell him go to your parish because he may reply, this means that you don't want to get into the trouble of answering. So no, the logic, our way of thinking is to refer them to their parish, but on the other hand, give them the answer to their question. Now, I have a question for Father George. When priests are dealing with the internet, there is a risk that a new perception is created of electronic patrism. In other words, we could create Orthodox gurus who could guide people. So I believe that the circular, the latest circular of the Church of Greece has put the issues on the right foundations, and the bishops should handle this in that manner, and we should all control ourselves. But I want to express in this room concerning this risk that any blog manager, either a priest, an abbot, a bishop, or anyone, let's say he creates a group of followers behind. What could the church do in this case? Well, it is a real risk. It is a real risk. But I will not add anything more to what I said. I do not have the solutions to this issue. It is a matter that needs to be reflected upon. We must think seriously on this. But you see, I always hear people talking about Orthodox gurus that emerge from now and then, and this gerontism. Have we realized that we have 500 gurus around of different origins? And it seems that we are preoccupied with the fear that the Orthodox father could become a guru. Well, let's control this. Nobody is uncontrollable in the church. The priest, the bishop, even the Holy Synod are controlled. So these problems have been resolved by our church, because there have been people who diverged, who became heretic, even distinguished members of the church, but they have been controlled. So, but let's not fear. Otherwise, let's just be seated in a chair and wait there until we die without any fear of deviation. Father Basil Kaliakmanis wants us to point out that from the screen we have to go to the face and vice versa, and also a suggestion to maintain an emergency line, of course, with the proper people, something that will be well organized. Even Protestants or anybody do have a way to intervene outside their walls, not within the walls. And you know, sometimes we say, I will stay inside and wait for the faithful to come to me. I think we have to go out, but cautiously. The shepherd will look for the flock. Mr. Nikolaos Gouraros, I have a question for Father Gabriel. Father, you have spoken of this interesting ministry via the Facebook. We know you from those posts, Father Gabriel, the elder father of the internet. This is how we know you. And let me ask you, we see the work that is done in Facebook. In Pemptousia, we have done some tests with the Facebook. We conducted some tests. We cooperated with major Facebook accounts over the world, and we have sent material. And we found out that whenever we posted a picture, an amazing picture, a religious icon painted by a famous iconographer, we could see that the specific account might have 300,000 friends. And if immediately there would be 20,000 likes for this icon. Then we did another test. We took one of the videos of Pemptousia, a good spiritual video with heavy theological content, which we really loved, because we were excited that we had that interview and we had that professor speaking of the Holy Fire. So we uploaded the video and we just had 10 likes. Then we did a third test. We decided to use something from our texts in order to find out what people want on the Facebook. For a large account with many friends, numerous friends, managed by people of the church, and we tried to upload there 3 lines from a phrase by Father Paisios. And it was just 10 words. As soon as we uploaded this phrase, we had 25,000 likes. Immediately afterwards, we did another test. We took a bigger phrase from the same elder father from a heavy text, taken from one of his books, and we took 3 paragraphs. We just had 20 likes there. So I would like to ask Father Gabriel, with his experience, actually all those people who are in the Facebook, how do they work? What kind of content do they want? Is Facebook emotional? Why would somebody do a like to some parts, some post? What is the best strategy on Facebook? How do you choose the content? How do you check the content which is uploaded on the Facebook? I could reply as follows.
Σε αυτά τα βιβλία. Μου απευθύνονται.
Actually, when I receive questions, I do not prepare anything. It's like the answer comes on its own. And sometimes I even wonder, how did I come up with this answer? I don't know. Sometimes I don't know how I come up with the answers I give. I also have the books in a PDF format. I upload new testimonies, and I always see that visits increase. A strange thing is that nowadays everybody copies texts and pictures, and everybody refers to the Holy Fathers. I do not do such things. I do not copy texts. I'm not following a scientific approach. I used to live on Mount Athos. I was just praying to God. Then I came out in the world with the blessings of my confessor. And this is how I found myself in Pavina Monastery, a monastery that was founded by the Holy Fathers. So I revived this monastery. I gave this monastery new life, of course, with the blessings and assistance of our Virgin Mary. This is what we need to do nowadays as well. We must give something from ourselves, something genuine, something of our own, instead of copying or analyzing.
Πρέπει να έχουμε βέβαια πάντα ως
Of course, the source always has to be the Holy Bible and our Holy Fathers, but we must experience all of that and give our own witness. When I speak with people on the internet, I'm trying to talk to them from heart. And sometimes when they ask me a question, I reply, and we end up crying, both of us. Many different people speak to me on Facebook, even people who have not been baptized or of different ethnic origin. And I have found out that they all expect me to address them with love, as they show us their love by making this move. And although this takes place through media such as Facebook and Skype, I think something is indeed transmitted, something is indeed conveyed to people, something deeper. When I upload some text by some father, as you said before, or when I upload some of my own texts, actually I have more visitors when the text is simple. If you allow me to say something on this question, from my work as an assistant to the school in Belgrade with our students, it is true that it's a difficult period. The attention of the students cannot be maintained for more than 10 minutes for the lectures. Our Metropolitan Porphyrios, who is not here with us, unfortunately, says that the worst sense I get is when I see my students looking at their mobile phones. At that moment, I tell a joke. I say a joke, so I see students smiling. And this is how we should approach the young generation who needs to be approached. So personal communication is a challenge. I cannot see an easy solution or an easy answer. It requires hard efforts. It is true that they cannot focus their attention for more than 10 minutes. For example, I give my students 5 cards. I'm old-fashioned. I did my postgraduate studies here in Athens with Mr. Skoutelis. And Mr. Gonis was my professor, and I learned to work with the cards, 18,000 cards. All kids are on the internet. I write on the card certain notes for the students. I give them 10 cards. And these kids, work very well with such media, with the internet and so on. So I tell them, find a common notion, a common meaning that connects these 10 cards. And I give them some names of the church, Father Paisios, Father Porphyrios. And I tell them, find a common perception among those. And they do not manage to do it. Unfortunately, there are many compromises with the speed. So it is just a medium to approach people. But if we just stay with that, we're lost.